Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is with us, launching a state probe that to the attempted assassination of President Trump. Governor, great to have you. So we know the Department of Justice has been weaponized. I don't think anybody really disputes that. Even most legal scholars see that for what it is. And I think Donald Trump in the end is going to be successful in that effort. But with that said, you don't have confidence in the federal government and the weaponized DOJ and their ability to do the job. Tell us why.
Well, first, Sean, we have violations of Florida law, attempted murder. There are also a number of potential violations across multiple jurisdictions. Just as a matter of course, Florida's serious about upholding its laws. When people break them, they face the music. That's just the way we do it. Then you also have this other question. In addition to making sure you throw the book at the suspect and that he serves in jail for the rest of his life, which is the appropriate punishment, how did this happen? Where'd this guy come from? How did he end up in the state of Florida? How did he end up burrowed in those bushes in a part of that golf course perimeter, which is the most vulnerable location when you're playing that course? And I've played the course when Donald Trump was president. So when security was at its height, I played that course. You have the 5th hole, 6th hole, 7th tee box. You know, that's all right on the tree line that is right in front of a road. And that would be the place that people would do. And yet this guy was able to burrow in there for 12 hours and almost get off a shot. And, you know, hats off to the Secret Service agent that engaged him before he was able to do it. But he was in a place where he shouldn't have been. So I think that there's a lot of questions about that. And the state of Florida, that was not our responsibility. That was obviously the Secret Service's responsibility. So we don't have any agencies that are going to try to pass the buck or anything. We just want to get to the truth, and we want people to know the facts.
The agents around the president were heroic, amazing. I don't have enough positive adjectives to say about them. Sheriff's Department, you know, under your jurisdiction, they were amazing. Local police, they were amazing. Where the screw-up came is you have the most vulnerable area of that golf course, that treed area around the holes you mentioned. And this is the area that is well known to be vulnerable because that's where paparazzi will hide to get videos or pictures of the president playing golf. And why they did not sweep that treed area is inexplicable to me and in many ways unforgivable. It allowed a guy with an AK-47 with a scope on it to get, you know, 300 plus yards from the president, probably closer by the time he took the shot. And it was after Butler where somebody got on a roof 130 yards from the president. Now, anyone with marginal shooting skill, that's the equivalent of a tap-in putt, Governor.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, clearly Butler, that roof was a prime location for somebody that wanted to pull off an attack, and they left it vacant, and we know what happened as a result of that. And then on the golf course, I remember the security when Donald Trump was president was obviously very significant. And when you're playing on that course, there's dogs sniffing, holes ahead, behind you, you name it. It's a massive undertaking. And when you're doing that, I remember thinking, being on the 5th green or on playing the 6th hole, I'm like, man, you have all this security, but yet there's a very busy street, literally like 10 yards behind you when you're there. I was like, that is something. And I thought to myself at the time, I'm like, well, obviously, they probably have some people that are scoping out on that street and whatnot, because literally someone could just pull over their car, hop out, and then they're right there in the hedges. So I remember thinking that back then when he had the full presidential armada of security. So in a situation like this, coming 2 months after Butler, man, that's got to be the place that you would think could potentially pose some risk. And so, yeah, we need answers to that. We also need to know more about this guy, Ryan Routh. I mean, he's got a very eclectic background. He's been in and out of trouble with the law. Whose radar was he on? Now, he's not a Florida resident. He's a North Carolinian, but he ends up in the state of Florida. So our folks here deserve answers to these questions, and the American people writ large deserve answers to these questions.
I am sorry, but not sweeping that area is unforgivable to me, and heads need to roll. And then the Secret Service patting themselves on the back, the interim head, and praising Mayorkas, it made me want to vomit. I just find that on every level unacceptable. However, I applaud everybody else in law enforcement. They all did their job. But this is a security failure of, just monumental proportions. Governor, great to have you. And by the way,
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.